Thank you for joining us today for a virtual fireside chat on the future of rental housing in the city of Toronto with Andrew Joyner, Managing Director at Tricon Residential. Andrew Joyner leads Tricon Residential's Canadian multifamily rental business. In this role, he designs and implements strategies, sources, investments, opportunities, and oversees teams responsible for business plan execution, including development, construction, and ongoing asset management. In addition, he manages senior relationships with joint venture partners. Mr. Joyner has a Master of Business Administration degree from Columbia University and an undergraduate degree in economics from Queen's University, from which he graduated with distinction and is a CFA charter holder. He's also a member of the Multifamily Council of the Urban Land Institute. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, Chantal. Hey, Jason.
Hi, thank you. So just some quick housekeeping notes before we get started. Please make sure to add your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll open up an audience Q&A at the very end of this hour. Now I'd like to introduce our host, Jason Maganoy, Head of Business Development at St. Joseph Media, and also our new Associate Publisher at Canadian Business. Thank you both for your time today, and take it away, Jason.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Chantal, and hello, how are you, sir? My first question is, how are you and how have you been holding up during the pandemic?
Hanging in there. You know, it's a good day to ask. Patios are opening up tomorrow. I feel like, there's sort of a promise in the air for, hopefully turning the corner on what's been a long, year and a bit in Toronto of, sort of battening down the hatches and lockdown. And I've been hanging in well. Family's good. My colleagues, everyone's healthy, which is the most important thing. I do have two little kids at home who are doing homeschooling. So, big shout out to those at home who are helping their kids through online learning. It is a serious responsibility and very tough to work from home when you're doing that. So my wife's been a rock star, and I know there's thousands of people out there going through this, and it's not a lot of fun.
I love that. And so tell us about your career. Like, how did you end up at Tricon?
So I grew up in Toronto, spent most of my 20s living over in London, working for a US-based developer called Hines. As I got close to 30, you're faced with this decision, do you want to continue doing the world city thing? Or do you want to move back to where you're from? And I loved growing up in the city. It was a place I always viewed myself as raising kids, and it was time to grow up. So moved back to Toronto some time ago now, and it's been great. I've been at Tricon now for 5 years. I joined this organization because it was a growth-oriented, culture-driven company who was pioneering many new businesses, whether it was the single-family rental business in the U.S. or starting a purpose-built rental business in Canada. There was an opportunity to join a company that was, as I said, growing businesses and play a role in that.
So why the focus on rental housing?
Yeah, good question. It's a bit of a journey. Tricon's been around for 32 years, and for the first 20 years of our company's existence, our primary focus was on for sale housing. So we co-developed and partnered with developers in Toronto and the US, and as I said, focused on for sale housing. The catalyst for the shift to rental housing is, many prongs, but I think, first and foremost on the Toronto side, when we kind of surveyed the market, what we saw was, the highest population growth of any city in North America, increasingly stretched and unattainable for sale housing prices, and a big gap in the market in terms of, you have sort of a Class B 1960s, 1970s stock, and then a sort of shadow rental inventory in the condo community, where you have absentee owners who, many instances, don't live in Canada. It's tough to find a unit. It's tough to get your lease finalized if you have maintenance issues. You're dealing with multiple emails and a complicated execution. By and large, in condo buildings, amenities are an afterthought and are many instances closed because residents don't want to pay condo fees. And there's really no sort of culture or community within buildings. And Tricon's been active in the U.S. for throughout its entire history, and professionally managed Class A purpose-built rental buildings are a major part of the housing stock in the U.S. and for a variety of reasons really hadn't been in Toronto up until about 2016. So we were one of the first movers back then to enter this sector with scale in the city. And our first building, the Selby at Bloor and Sherbourne, completed in November of 2018. And that's fully leased up now. And we've got 10 other projects on the go around the city.
Wow. I mean, Toronto's always been known for having a very low vacancy rate. And it's just really tough to access housing in the city. So you have 10 buildings on the go. How is Tricon going to relieve that pressure?
Yeah, so we're certainly part of the supply story. I think by introducing a meaningful amount and a growing portfolio in different neighborhoods around the city, we're adding to sort of the housing continuum, giving renters more choice, more options, and we're proud to be part of the solution. Before COVID, it seemed like housing affordability was the #1 issue in the city, and whether it's again adding rental housing stock throughout the city, or even we have certain projects that have a very significant affordable housing component, and we like that. We want to continue to pursue opportunities that have a meaningful affordable housing component. And we're excited to be building this product and owning and operating it long term.
I mean, the pandemic has really allowed us to sort of reimagine how we work, how we live, how we play. And how will the pandemic affect how we build our communities? You have 10 developments in obviously different locations in the city. So what will make a great neighborhood post COVID-19?
Yeah, maybe I'll separate that a little bit into the building element and then the neighborhood element. I think with respect to buildings in the built form, there's been a lot of things that have been reaffirmed with our approach to development. For example, one of Tricon's philosophies is generally to focus more on Juliet balconies than outdoor balconies. Now, the reason for that is if we can give our residents another 50 square feet of indoor usable space in a climate that, let's face it, isn't conducive to being outside a huge part of the year, that allows them to work from home, exercise in their unit, have a little bit more livable space, but still have a wonderful indoor-outdoor environment. That was a decision we made before COVID, and I think that's been reaffirmed as our residents have most certainly wanted to work out from home and work from home during the pandemic. We've typically overbuilt amenities. We think that's very important to our value proposition. Unfortunately, during COVID, that's not something that we've been able to keep open in all instances. But what that's really led to is the importance of technology in terms of delivering on the resident value proposition and experience. And so, whether it's residents getting a parcel notification through their app, paying rent on their app, booking a maintenance request through their app, or even using it to host community events, whether it's an online cooking class, an online mixology class, allowing residents when they're open to answer COVID questions and book amenities safely. We've really had to leverage technology to deliver on, as I said, the resident value proposition as best we could. It's not the same as having the community together, but it's the best we could do. and really just help simplify our residents' lives. And then I think, on the common areas, whether it's in-suite ventilation, whether it's air filtration in common areas and elevators, these are all use of touchless technology. Interestingly, a lot of these things we put in place before COVID, just from a resident convenience perspective. But I think, again, the decisions have very much been affirmed. And we're certainly studying new opportunities to raise the bar, certainly, again, with air filtration and touchless technology in places we hadn't had it, and making our parcel locker rooms bigger and bigger. We did have automatic parcel lockers, even refrigerated ones, so folks could take delivery of food and groceries. But we thought we were oversizing those rooms at the time of design, and that continues to go the wrong direction. But
Wow.
yeah.
And that's the thing that we threw an event at the Selby, and one of the things that I thought was so amazing about that group and the residents was that everyone was hanging out. Like, it seemed like it was like a really great community, and I was sort of taken by that, and sort of hearing about how you're integrating technology to just sort of build those sort of community ties within the building are really phenomenal. But I guess my question then it bridges into the neighborhood portion. So why that neighborhood? Like, why are you focusing on the neighborhoods that you're building in?
So, you asked the question, what makes a great neighborhood? I think there's an expression called the 15-minute city, which I think was part of the sort of planning framework of how Paris was built, where, parks, apartments, and employment hubs would all be within a 15-minute walk. And I think as there continues to be, to a degree, a heightened focus on just human density, whether it's getting on the subway, whether it's taking elevators with folks, et cetera. I think as people continue to have those themes top of mind, I think being in communities with, again, outdoor space, a high street where they can do convenience shopping, and be able to walk to work will continue to very much be vogue.
So one of the things that I'm obviously I get a lot of my real estate news from TikTok.
Yeah.
So I'm on TikTok all the time, and according to TikTok,
the leading authority.
Well, there are like so many real estate agents who are killing it on TikTok, and I guess according to TikTok, the city is super expensive. It seems like there are bidding wars all over the place right now. At the same time, there's that narrative you'd said about the inaccessibility of housing in Toronto. Is it a price problem or is it an income problem in Toronto?
Look, I think solving Toronto's housing challenges these are complex issues. I think look, I think from Toronto has, in 2019, Toronto had the highest population growth of any city in North America. Wow. Number one. So we have a huge number of people coming to this city every year, and they need to live somewhere. And I think that in and of itself just creates this surging demand for housing. I think we're also generally, with the Green Belt, not building, a significantly more stock of, single family homes. And as the city becomes more dense, getting around, commuting becomes increasingly challenging, et cetera, et cetera. People, want to live in it can be in certain locations and neighborhoods. I think single family homes are oversubscribed, just given we have a significantly more demand but not significantly more supply. And I think people have also saved money during COVID. Not everybody. It's been a tough period for a lot of people. But by the same token, people haven't been eating at restaurants, haven't been going to sports events, cultural events, haven't been traveling. I think some who were thinking about buying are have been able to save a nest egg to help put them on that path. And what is more, interest rates are also quite low and accommodating. And so I think the low interest rate one also can't be overstated. That's a big driver of price and value.
My next question is, obviously Toronto is about, like, how important is legacy when you think about developers building buildings that will stand the test of time? Like, is that something that you actively try to encourage through your developments at Tricon?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, it all starts at the top. Our CEO, Gary Berman, used to chair an event called the HUG Awards, which is, architecture awards in Canada amongst the development community. And he's always had a great passion for, design architecture and always pushed us. As I said at the outset, Tricon is a long-term owner. We intend to hold our properties over the long term. And I think there's plenty of examples in other cities, and beyond just residential, office as well, that, developments where leading world-class architects are involved, that create beautiful buildings that stand the test of time, perform better. And so for us, we're very much about, permanent, thoughtful design, not only the aesthetic, but also the energy performance. We typically build to LEED Gold standards. And, as a renter, higher energy costs impacts our renters' occupancy costs, it impacts our occupancy costs. So also trying to introduce, sustainable design into, windows and cladding and energy performance is important. So, for example, the Selby, we worked with BKL Architects out of Chicago. The K stands for Kerwin, Tom Kerwin, who is one of the leading architects at SOM. We're working a lot with, we have 3 projects with a group by the name of Kobe, who is one of the leading architecture firms out of Copenhagen. And again, they are, whether it's their approach to public realm, the human experience, how buildings are consumed at grade, permanent materials. We very much focus on design architecture, and we think that it's absolutely the right thing to do for any long-term owner operator. And quite frankly, we think it adds to the overall fabric of our city. I think we've got a lot of very efficient, tall, rectangular buildings in the city, which are, developer friendly. It's highly repetitive and efficient, but it's not necessarily nuanced. And so we definitely, whether it's looking at, masonry, metal, texture, shape, public realm, setbacks, shadows, light, it's all a major part of how we approach our buildings.
And I'd love to ask you about partnerships as well.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you have great partners. You just described 2 awesome partners there. At the Selby, you're attached to Maison Selby, which is that incredible O&B restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of partnerships do you have in the pipeline? Is there anything that you wanted to share or announce to this group right now?
On the partnership side, the reason we do it is we are trying to create a resident experience that goes above and beyond, and whether it's an exceeding expectations, and whether that's simplifying our residents' lives or helping to create events, programming, taste making, things that bring people together. These are all why we do it. And so we work closely with you guys at Toronto Life to staff our concierge desks. We, and our residents love access to, your new restaurant lists, and it helps provide them, great new fun things to do on weekends and in their social time. We have a partnership with BioSteel to design and program our gyms. One of the founders of BioSteel was Matt Nickel, who was the Leafs and Raptors head trainer, and he's helped design our commercial grade gyms and create great spaces for our residents to enjoy. There's multiple other partnerships. You mentioned O&B. They've been a great partner, and we found that by having not a bank, not that sort of tenant, but rather a restaurant that has an energy and placemaking. It's an amenity for our residents, but it's also, a great driver of footfall when we're trying to lease up buildings. And so there's some some synergies there. And yeah, look, I mean, you asked a question about how things have evolved during COVID. I think as we think about partnerships at this point, we're thinking, more about, food delivery and, some of the big new trends that we're seeing that have really been accelerated by COVID, and how we can help, simplify, our residents' lives. But as I don't mean to repeat myself, but yeah, another big element too during COVID is how do we deliver these partnerships, which our residents love and enjoy virtually. Again, whether it's a cooking class, one of the fun things we did during COVID is one of our competitor buildings, not owned by Tricon, and us had a cooking class cooking competition judged by local chefs. And so, we try to have fun with it. And we're always trying to think about, new ideas.
I love that. I love the idea of just making sure that the resident is at the center of everything that you're doing. It's funny, like I have a condo in Liberty Village, and I'm not sure that when they built that particular, it's not yours. I'm not sure when they built that particular condo that it was designed to really help me out, because I still don't know where my locker is. So that's really good thing there. So I guess my next question then is, and we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. So if you have any questions on the audience, please plug them into the Q&A chat box. But my question, Andrew, is, are you optimistic about the city? Like, what do you think Q4 in Toronto looks like?
I'm very optimistic about the city. I think that there was a bit of a fog in terms of our vaccine timing and rollout here that held us back versus our neighbors to the south. But it seems like we've actually surged ahead in terms of vaccinations of dose 1, and I think that's an important precursor to people feeling comfortable about returning to the downtown core to work, to live, and we're certainly not yet back at opening the borders up, but I think we're taking all the right steps towards a late year reopening. I'm not sure that it's everyone's going to be back at the office in Q4, but I would hope that we're inching towards, call it 50 to 75% sort of utilization and people returning. I really hope that schools open in the fall. I had my fingers very tightly crossed for the end of June here, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But I think kids being back at school, allowing parents to be able to work, to live their lives, is really important. And it'll just be so great tomorrow to have patios back open, that energy and pulse of the city, sort of laughter, conversation, glasses clinking. I feel like we've all missed that sort of humanity to our city as people have retrenched after a long winter, but inside and with masks on, to just being able to see sort of that human side and be out and about. So I'm very optimistic about the back half of the year, and looking forward to what we all love about downtown urban Toronto living to sort of re-enter the equation.
Yeah, and I think you nailed that. There's something about the way the city sounds when there are people just in our spaces enjoying Toronto. It's something that I don't think I realized how much I actually miss that. So we're going to open up some questions from the audience. We have a question from Newsrat, and his question is: Are your buildings all in downtown Toronto? Are there any in North York, Etobicoke, and other areas?
Yeah, our current focus is downtown Toronto. So, Bloor and Sherbourne, King East, Distillery District, Corktown, Yonge and Bloor, Yonge and Summerhill, Queen and Ontario. We're generally focused on the downtown core.
Another question from Chris: What building project excites you the most in the Tricon portfolio, and why?
It's a bit like which is your favorite favorite kid. They're all exciting for very different reasons. Whether you asked about design before, whether it's great architects, great partners, great neighborhoods. There's so many things that go into a real estate development. It's so multifaceted. I love them all, and I genuinely mean that. The one that I is very special to Tricon, and I know our partners at Dream and Kilmer, is a large project we're doing down in the West Don Lands. It's 3 city blocks, 12 acres. It's the largest rental community in Canada under construction. It's about 2,500 units, but it's 30% affordable housing. And so we're working with all 3 levels of government. The first of those 3 blocks is well under construction. Block 8, block 347 started about a month ago, and block 10 started about a week ago. So, that's a really important city building project that we're incredibly excited to be proud of, incredibly proud and excited to be part of. And the first block, as I said, block 8, we are targeting, opening in the back half of 2022, and we're really excited about that.
Wow, that sounds incredible. That sounds like a huge project. That's awesome. Next question is, the Selby was Tricon's first purpose-built rental project in Toronto. Mm-hmm. So what was the biggest lessons that you learned launching the Selby?
That's a good question. You learn a lot. There's a long list that comes to mind. Try to think of the big ones to share. Make your we thought the parcel room was big enough. Gosh, what's the biggest lesson learned? I can think of thousands. Oh boy. I'm not stumped. I'm just trying to pick one. A big one I would just say, and I think it falls in the decisions affirmed versus like a big lesson learned. But when you're trying, this was our first building. It was bound to come with a lot of teaching moments. Just really focusing on long-term decision making. We added an extra most condos with 500 units wouldn't have as many elevators as we have. We added additional elevator to help with moving and help reduce wait times. That's clearly proven to be a good decision. Putting porcelain liners under our windowsills, which no condo developer would do. It's not their. It's once they've sold the unit, they're done. Just to help mitigate water damage. These are like really small ones that developers take pride in, these small little decisions that we think improve the experience for a long-term owner operator. But those are big ones. I think just another one would be like cohesive design. I think we did a good job at the Selby. We moved the old mansion house. We shifted it forward about 100 feet.
Yeah.
And that's where Charles Goodrum used to live, who is this the son of the whiskey distilling family. And so we one of our art pieces in the lobby is a deconstructed whiskey still. And whether it was like that house and the resident being the influence behind that art piece, all the way through to each in front of each one of all 502 suites. Our light sconce at the entrance is copper, just like that whiskey still. We try to be sort of thoughtful and cohesive in our design. I think we did a good job at the Selby. And as you have more and more on the go, your first baby always gets all the attention. Just trying to scale those best practices as we go. and be thoughtful about that is a big part of the day-to-day.
I just love that. Like we did a story on the history of that house, and it's just like the fact that you're weaving storytelling into tiny details on the building. That's amazing. Another question
honestly,
here.
Like that's the big difference, I think, and that's what's exciting about rental is for condo. You know, you launch a building for sale before you've built it, and the market's been hot in this city for some time, and many condo developers are fortunate enough to be able to exit and sell their condo, in a month, well before they've started construction, and from a revenue perspective, they're done. For us, we don't quote unquote sell units till it's done. We can't rely on renderings and videos and storytelling. People are going to see their unit, and they're going to see the amenities, that are going to experience the building in very real life. So we don't render anything that we're not going to build to a T. We have to very much focus on the long-term approach, and it's more nuanced. It's the way the building presents, it's the energy in the lobby, it's the scent, it's what is the elevator wait time. If it's too long, that might annoy somebody when they're moving. Like there's nowhere to hide. So you really have to be thoughtful about at every turn, but also thoughtful about anticipating the future. If you're going to own these buildings for several decades, effectively indefinitely, you've got to really study the market, be on the cutting edge of new influences and technologies, such that you've got something that will stand the test of time and perform.
That's great. Another question we have here is, so it's actually a great segue into this question, which is, what would you say are the most important amenities everyone who's out there looking for housing should
Well, we do resident surveys pretty often, and study this sort of thing. So I'll give you the top three. Number one, without a doubt, is the gym. We go to great lengths, as I mentioned with the BioSteel partnership earlier. We very much focus on large scale, full-size commercial gyms. Actually, many people don't know this. Equinox was started by a rental apartment company, and it was their in-building gym. And they did such a good job with it, they commercialized it and rolled it out. So we, whether it's, our full-size gyms, we have yoga studios, we have a programming feature called Fitness on Demand, where, our residents in the yoga studio, they could do, a yoga class, an interval class, step class, et cetera, and tune in live to, a class around the world at any point. It's all on demand, and enjoy that. So our gyms are a great amenity, and they also allow our residents to save some money versus their third-party gym membership. So that's great. The next one is the pool. We in all of our buildings very much prioritize outdoor infinity pools with city skyline views that I think there's just an energy about being out around the water, whether it's being out there to read a book, to cool off in the summer, just from a community perspective and bringing people together. That is without fail our second most popular amenity. And we'll program that from time to time, whether it's bringing in a DJ. We'll have popsicle stands up there and some catering for our residents, which is great. Unfortunately, during COVID, we haven't really been able to use either one of those much. There were some brief windows, but as I said, we've been working with a handful of virtual fitness providers who can deliver fitness programming electronically to our residents. There's no substitute for a pool electronically, unfortunately, but we're as of tomorrow, all the stuff's opening up, so that's very encouraging.
Wow.
And then the third one is actually the pet spa. We've got co-working spaces, we've got games rooms, we've got a lot of other great amenities, but the pet spa is super popular. And I think one of I mentioned Gary's attention to detail and eye for design. His father David is equally design centric, and he has great impacts on our organization. But one of my most fun little cute anecdotes is in our at the Selby and the pet spa, we actually have art that is like knee level for the dogs, not for the people. So look, it's those little details, those like hidden little reveals. It's that sense of thoughtfulness that we try to bring to everything we do.
Amazing. My next question is, so, I mean, it's so funny. My wife is pregnant. She's going to be giving birth very, very soon. So I'm now going to have a family. You are the head of Tricon's Canadian multifamily business. So what's in my future and what are you super proud of already in terms of the work that you've done?
You know what, Jason, unfortunately, my screen froze and I missed half that question.
Yeah, so the question is, I'm now entering into the space where I have a family, and
Yep.
I'm going to be, you lead the multifamily business at Tricon.
Yep.
So what are you proud of, and what do you see in terms of family housing in Toronto in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, great question. There is no question to me that we as a city need to build more family-oriented units. The condo industry, because they're typically trying to sell to some investors, some end users, and they're trying to move product at a price point. It by and large tends to be smaller one bedrooms. And again, once it's sold, it's done. Like for us, when we're going to own and operate our properties long term, we need to anticipate future demographic trends. It's not a one point in time event. So yeah, we absolutely have to think that way. We as a company philosophically are building more twos and threes. I think for the demographics based reason that you suggested, Jason, that millennials for the first, and I think this is a big deal. For the first time in 15 odd years, the percentage of the population that's a millennial went down for the first time. And that's because they're moving into household formation years. And, that comes with needing additional bedrooms if you want to get a good night's sleep. And, for that demographics-based reason, we're focused on building more twos and threes and trying to future-proof our units. But I think secondarily, like Toronto is becoming an increasingly expensive city. If you look at a place like London or New York, it is very common to have roommates well into your 30s. I think as Toronto sort of ascends increasingly to world city status, and it's becoming a more expensive city. Having housing options where people, can have roommates, i.e. a 2 or 3 bedroom, is also, helps improve affordability. So for a variety of reasons, we're building, more twos and threes versus ones. Like the typical industry splits in condo would be like 60-30-10, 1, 2, 3 bedroom.
Wow.
And we're definitely less than that on the one side.
Wow. And that actually is another question we have from the audience is, so in terms of your renter profile, who rents right now? And and all these upcoming buildings, will it unlock various types of renters?
Yeah, great question. And it's something we spend a lot of time thinking about from a segmentation perspective. Broadly speaking, our typical resident is a 20 to 34-year-old individual who works in the downtown core, is college or university educated and works, in the medical, whether it's like the hospital network, whether it's the university network or whether it's, in downtown Toronto, or even in Midtown. Like we have a lot of stats on our demographic profiles, and it's a pretty wide net, to be honest. I think, our renter profile generally sort of fits the face of Toronto, which is a diverse city. There's certainly a meaningful portion of people in our buildings who are outside of that, whether they are downsizers, whether it's younger parents, whether it's people doing renovations, whether it's graduate students and professors. So we cast the net pretty wide, and that works well for us. But again, I think our resident profile generally matches the face of the city. In terms of different locations, I talked earlier a little bit about like cohesive design and building narratives and themes, and that is something that we do focus on. So our project at King and Spadina, the Taylor, that will have a more younger sort of urban millennial pulse to it. I expect that pool deck on a hot Saturday afternoon with the western facing sun to be pretty rocking. Whereas our project up at Yonge and Summerhill, the James, that is going to cater far more towards move downers, folks who are looking to right size and sell their family home, who are probably in their 60s. And so it's a broad spectrum, and then we've got sort of a lot in the middle.
How you name them?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Okay, we typically we like people names. We think that's fun and storied. We typically try to find names, or we explore the theme of like historic influence. With the Selby, it's Selby Street. We thought that was a catchy, playful, fun name. So not that one was actually pretty easy. The Taylor, that's in the garment district, the former garment district, and so we thought that was a cute, playful nod to the location's history. We have a project at Yonge and Gloucester on a pretty leafy, green sort of foliage street. It's a 36-story rental building we're currently building that we've called the Ivy. It's close to U of T, and sort of that heritage feel of the area. So we typically go about it in that fashion.
Amazing. And this actually takes me to the last question of our fireside chat, which is, so the pandemic seems like it's ending.
Yeah.
It's ending on Friday.
Yeah.
There you go. It's ending on Friday. What is the first thing you're going to do?
11 hours and 16 minutes.
So in 11 hours,
yeah.
What is the first thing that you're going to do in 11 hours?
Well, tomorrow, I haven't even had the luxury of thinking about that yet. It's Friday, so I'll probably hang out with my kids and hopefully it's a nice day and enjoy a beer in the backyard with them. But look, I feel like that's a great question, and I think during COVID, I feel like me, probably like a lot of people, it's just been a bit head on a swivel, just with everything going on at home. You've got to be proactive in terms of setting up, work events just to bring people together and keep the culture up. It's tougher to communicate with everything on a scheduled Zoom call. Try to do my part at home as best I could and help support my wife, who's been amazing at dealing with the two kids at home. Look, I don't know. I definitely would love to just chill on a beach and watch the kids play and relax. I'm not sure that's not easy right now. So I don't know. Maybe it's a trip out west to Vancouver Island or something, and just try to get away from it all. But yeah, it's been a long 16 months or whatever it's been.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for today, Andrew. That was incredibly insightful. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Very much looking forward to seeing you at some of our future events over the course of the month. But thank you again. And everyone stay safe. And I know that it's opening tomorrow. Take advantage of the reopening. It's an exciting time in the city. So thank you again, Andrew.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Chantal.